that for us. That is the book. I actually put a note about it in Coaches Up for Change. It is a small but very effective book. So if you're looking for your next personal development business growth book, I highly, highly recommend it. It's called The Coaching Habit. So we are Dee and Larry Korchin. We are here with you. It is already Monday, June 22nd. So thanks for joining us tonight. And we are continuing on our discussion and really putting into practice the 6 fundamental skills that Dan Bell has just done such a great job laying out for us, really making this business simple and keeping us focused on the activities that really move the business forward. And when you want to help more people and you want to build a business, it's all about doing business building activities. So Larry's going to take the lead tonight. Topic is approach. We've got a couple team members who are going to be sharing with us, but we love your questions and your input. So feel free to put anything in the comments that resonates with you. And if you have questions, we'll try to address them towards the end, and you can put those in the chat as well.
Great. Awesome. Well, let's jump in. First of all, I was totally excited about this week. And when Dee asked me to, again, talk about approach, when I went back through my notes and reviewed what Dan had presented, I was just, again, it's an exciting topic as far as getting to approach. And I think it's one of the areas that when you look at our skills and what we try to do, and that's connecting with individuals, this is probably one of the most important. We identify, but then approach is the next thing. And how do we bring about that conversation, as Dan says, to open the window, to see if the window is open to a conversation. So I'm going to throw a lot at you. So please fill up the chat if you want to shut me up, so we can, again, have a good time tonight, and then we'll hear from a few of our coaches. So let's dive right in. So the simplicity about this is it's really a rock in our business. Understanding approach is key in order for us to grow a business, not just for clients, but also for coaches. And in this week, when Dan was going through it, he was really focused more on the client approach. Next week is more about the business approach as far as affecting health coaches and trying to bring them into the business. But that's the neat thing about this. So let's dive in. We spoke prior about identifying and filling the funnel. So filling the funnel, we jump into approach. And just a reminder, motivation, mindset, and then skills. And that's where we're working today. We're working on identifying the skills necessary in order for us to grow our business. So again, I'll repeat these if you didn't get a chance to watch it. But again, please go back to Dan's training because it's just filled with nuggets. There's 6 fundamentals: identify, approach, present, follow up, start up, and then coach. Okay, so again, those are the 6 fundamentals, and tonight we're talking on approach. So as far as the optimal health candidate, options to connect. Well, one of the things, Dan was a little sarcastic in his presentation when he said, do not call them. All right, if that's an option. We don't call them and we don't grow our business. But the other approaches are approach them directly, approach them indirectly, and then also ask to practice on them as far as a client goes. Now, again, a lot of times we connect with clients via text, via communications through social media. But the one most important thing to ask for that approach, okay, or to get that client connected is to get them to the phone. And that's really what we want to do when we ask to see if their window is open. We want to get them to the phone. The phone is the most important thing for us to do. 9 times out of 10, and Terry was indicating this, especially at the end in her comments, you don't want to communicate back and forth via text or social media. You lose something, all right? And so it's always important to present, okay, and ask, and do the ask, I should say, through a phone conversation, a verbal conversation. What's the purpose of the invite and approach? I mentioned it as we started. It's very simply to see if somebody's window is open to a conversation. So if somebody says, no, I would rather not have a conversation, okay, that's a successful conversation with that client. Okay, so I know a lot of times we may knock ourselves down and beat ourselves up that, well, the client said no. Well, that's okay. That means you presented something. They said, no, I'm not available for it. I'm not ready for it. that was success. Move on to the next one, right? They may not be ready now. They may be ready at some other time. But at this point, you made the approach and you move on. So I think that's really important, because I think a lot of times we do, again, kind of get down on ourselves a little bit when that happens. But that's just perfectly normal. Let's see, moving on. Never combine, and this was Dan's #1 rule, never combine the approach with the presentation. What it really does is it takes away the control of the conversation. When you jump in, okay, and you identify, I'd like to have a conversation, see if you're available for, if there's an opening there. Okay, if we jump into the presentation, it takes away something from it. It takes away not only control, but it takes away the value a bit as far as the importance of what you're about to present to them. So remember that. You have something very valuable in your hands. You have something that can change their life, all right? And to call them up and approach them and then try to present it takes away some of the value of what you're offering. So again, even if it's a day, or later this afternoon, you have time later this afternoon, that's perfectly fine to do that. But again, it's to put importance around what we're about to speak to them about. So that's important. And Dan is really, he's adamant that we don't need them. They need us a lot more than we need them as far as the business goes. Okay. So it's real important to understand that what we have is gold. I mean, we're changing people's lives, and people have to understand that. And we want you to treat it, and this is where Dan wants us to go. You should treat it like gold. You should treat it like something super special that it is, okay, when you're presenting it to that client. Like, wow. I mean, Terry at the end of the training said, I always leave voice text and say, you got to call me. I got something amazing for you, right? Think about that, okay? You're going to change somebody's life. It should have that type of enthusiasm behind it, okay? So that's another concept. And when you go to share about it, we always say this, it's sharing and caring. It's not telling and selling. But again, the concepts are the things that you have running through your mind. It's important to remember that those are in your mind. Okay. And if they're in your mind, what does that mean? Okay. Does anybody know? Does anybody want to put in the chat? When it's in your mind, what does that mean? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? I'm dating myself. Yep, we're getting in our own way, and it's about us. Exactly. It's about us. And that's the issue we want to get away from. It's not about us. It's not about our feelings. It's not about what we think and those internal things, those things in our mind that are basically blocking us from presenting an approach to a client. Okay. So again, it's about getting out of our own way and getting out of our own concepts. So what works? Relax, have fun, know your reasons, and make multiple calls at one time. Dan said it's really important for us to get geared up and boom, 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 knock them out, because we get in a zone when we start presenting, and then we start feeling the energy come through. Have the names and numbers handy and decide how many people you're going to call at a specific time. And again, it's all about approach, and it's all about setting appointments for the future to talk about the presentation. Common mistakes, we're too anxious. Okay, we're anxious. We want to almost, I hate to say it, we want to vomit on them because we're almost too excited. You got to do this, and people are like, whoa, especially for our introverts out there. Okay, so we have to, again, step back, and we have to make sure that we're not too anxious. We don't talk too much, that we don't tell too much. We don't come across too salesy, too enthusiastic, and not comfortable with the silence. Again, there's a lot of people out there that like to process and they like to think things through. Don't be uncomfortable with that silence that exists. And the last thing before we jump into some of our coaches here, be comfortable and sit in the chair of the prospective client. think about how you're coming across to your client, okay, when you're presenting. All right. So, and again, it could be a great time once you're done approaching. If somebody says no, just sit back and say, did I do everything that I wanted to do? Did I come across, if I was the client, would I have liked the way I came across? It's always important for us to do that. And for newer coaches, again, this is a great opportunity too. If you don't think that you're connecting, okay, you can practice. You can practice with your mentorship team to make sure that, again, you're making your approach and you're making it a positive experience. All right. So I'm going to pause because I know you probably, I'm droning on and I don't want to drone on to you guys. So I want to share, and I would like our friend Jen Bowsman. Jen, are you out there?
I'm here.
Thought I
Can
saw
you
you.
hear me?
Jen's out there. I hear her. I can't see her
Okay.
yet, but she's
Well,
out there.
it's weird. At first I lost audio and now I seem to have lost video. I don't know. I get one or the other tonight. So you can either see me or you can hear me. Uh, it's not both.
Jen is going to share a little bit about how she approaches clients. And Jen's approach, again, would just love to hear what you're doing and share with us.
Great. Well, thanks, Larry. I am definitely not yet fully comfortable. Like Larry said, I haven't really come into my own, I should say, but I'm working on it, and Larry has been super helpful. Most of the clients I have, so we have 4 children and they're middle school and high school age. So most of my clients are soccer moms and women I know from school. So they're all like me. They're busy. They don't have a lot of time, but they've seen my progress. They've seen what it's done for me. And my mother, who's also at all these soccer games and all the events, she's also on programs. She's lost over 75 pounds. So they see this and they all want to know. And I have not perfected the art of getting them to the phone, but what I think that has worked for me is the Facebook page. And initially people will come to me and they'll say, well, where can I find out about it? What can I, is there a website you can send me to? And I'll say, it's a really great resource because I know all these people are on Facebook. I say, let me invite you to this Facebook group. You can lurk all you want. You don't have to put yourself out there, but it gives them time to really see it in action and see what people are doing and the questions and the success stories and even a little bit of the frustrations, because it feels, I feel like it gives them sort of a tangible thing. And then I have found that 80% of the people I send there will then come to me when they're ready. I'm still seeing them. So I have that follow up with them and I'll say, oh, did you see this? Did you notice this? Or I'll check in with them on Facebook Messenger if there's an interesting post that I try to link to them. But I have found that that's been really successful for me in helping me kind of get my foot in the door because I haven't perfected getting them there, but this is something that I do. And I've also found that it keeps me engaged in the Facebook page as well, which is super helpful for my own journey because I'm constantly checking to see what my existing clients are seeing and what people I've shared the site with are seeing and how I can possibly use that as a conversation starter.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. This is Dee. And so I think what she's referring to is that she'll put a candidate potentially, and it can be okay to put them in Eat, Live, and Be Optavia, let them kind of stalk and see what's happening in the group. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that in the next week or two with some other options for our team as well. So, so thank you, Jen. I mean, I think the most important thing is you are really paying attention to the people around you who are asking questions and then taking those next steps with them to further engage them into what it is that we have to offer.
Yeah, and using our resources, that's the key thing. So again, not recognizing that it might not be a strong point at this point, but again, utilizing the resources in order to grow your business. So
Mhm.
Great stuff, Jennifer.
Yeah. One of the things that Carol Quintero just put, we were talking about, some people were saying things in there that are own concepts, that what Larry had brought up, things that go on in our mind aren't necessarily true. And I just want to remind everybody, we've been talking about it for a while, but the mindset and our motivation is 90% of the equation. So we got to be careful about what's going on upstairs here because it can mess us up. And Carol Quintero just put in the comments that if you believe you'll be successful, or that you are successful, or that what you offer is the best thing ever, then it will be. Like, you are so much more likely, the positive thinking, the positive mindset, as like Dan said, that what we're offering them is way more than what we would ever gain from it. So we are truly offering in their best interest. And I just think that can't be emphasized enough, because I think we let our own junk get in the way. And throw a 1 in the comments if that's you, because I know it can certainly block me up as well. And somebody who comes to this with super enthusiasm, and her energy is contagious around it, is Cricket Beach. So Cricket, we communicated you're going to share a little bit with us tonight about how you connect with people and approach them about the great success that you've been having on the program. Can you unmute yourself?
Now is it okay?
There you are. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, y'all. So, thanks, Dee and Larry. So, yeah, I think for me with the approach, I've learned a lot about myself, and I'm a talker and get super duper excited about everything, literally. So, like Larry was saying, sometimes I want to, just let everything out and I don't want to overwhelm people. So, one of the things that I've really kind of learned and taught myself over the past several months is I've really learned to listen better and also to meet people where they are. You are going to have some people that just want to ask questions at first, and that might be a little bit shy about it, but they're interested. And I never am that pushy salesperson. That is not something that I am comfortable with. And I think that one thing that I have found and has been said back to me is that I make people feel comfortable. So wherever they are, I'm going to meet them wherever they are. Sometimes that does mean I have to tone it down. Now, my close friends and family, they know this is me, and, they're going to get it. But, for some other people, weight and health overall, and, some people that do have medications they take, some of those things are very sensitive. So you sort of have to learn to meet people where they are with it. Be as gentle and as I don't know what the right word would be, tactful as you can about it. I will say the mindset point that was brought up on training and that Dee was just talking about is huge. There was a period there where I was really kind of talking in my own head about, Cricket, you're a diabetic. You've always had weight issues. You've got all these things. Why would someone think that you could be a health coach? They're going to look at you and think, she's a health coach, kind of thing. And those are the thoughts that really get in our brain and like mess things up. So what you have to do is look at yourself now, look at how far you've come, and look at the health that you've gained, and focus on that and don't let that negative old stuff kind of get in your way if you have that old stuff. So don't get in the way. Don't take those no's as big rejections. I really liked the comparison to the waitress offering ketchup for the fries. I mean, that is perfect, because like I said, it's personal for everybody. We do have to meet them where they are. And I think that when they are ready, people will come back to you. So that no doesn't mean they'll never have ketchup with their fries. That just means like today they can't do it. So just kind of hang in there with it, guys. And, my best advice is just believe in yourself. And, I pray on it a good bit too. And that's just me personally. When I'm feeling down or feel like I've gotten some no's that I was disappointed in, I say a prayer or two and just kind of keep going. But it's definitely something that I super work at all the time, and I feel like I'm growing all the time. So mindset, huge. Get out of your own way, huge. And meet people where they are. Just learn to pay attention and you know, we're not salespeople. We're giving them something wonderful, and they'll once they figure that out, they'll come running to you. So that's all, y'all. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Cricket. That was awesome. Actually, a perfect leadway into what I was going to jump into next, as far as what Dan was talking about in the training. But again, just a shout out to Jen and to Cricket for sharing tonight. And again, appreciate every week everybody that's been asked to participate. Just that's what makes this meeting exciting. So just remember that you too may be asked to participate in the future. But no, Cricket, excellent point as far as, you know, again, meeting clients where they are. You know, that's kind of where Dan was talking about the music, right? And that's really where you were talking about. You're trying to read the client. You're trying to figure out where your music is going to go and how do you present with that client. And a lot of times we don't want to be robots. We don't want to script it out so much that we're like, I messed up on the script, right? We want it to flow based on the way we speak, the way we communicate, and the way really where our hearts are when we meet with clients and approach them. So that's a big part of it. So identify what your notes are, okay, and the points you want to cover in an approach when you talk to a client. But again, use your own music in order to convey that message, okay? It'll come across more natural. It'll come across more like you. Again, you are your own brand, and you have a distinctive in dealing with these clients, these potential clients, these people that you have met. They've obviously, you're attracted in a way in that they like what they see about you and they like who you are or what you represent. So just remember that as far as when you're communicating with your clients, to play your own music. I'll quickly go over the approach because I think we know a lot about this. And if we don't, please go back to the training. But there's a direct approach, okay? And there's an indirect approach. I think Dee and I were talking about it. We think a lot of times as coaches, we go with more of an indirect approach, kind of like, I have this offering. You may know somebody that's interested in it, right? And we kind of like almost dance around it sometimes. That's more the indirect, okay, versus the direct. I have something here and I thought about you. Do you have time to have a conversation about the program that I have? You know, I thought about you, you've been on my heart about it. So from that standpoint. So again, the direct versus the indirect. One isn't better than the other, okay? And you may find that in certain circumstances, you may want to use the indirect. In certain circumstances, you may want to be direct, depending on the relationship that you have with that individual. So you want to say something on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point, you guys. You know, we're kind of spoiled with Facebook. Facebook allows us to reach a lot of people quickly, and so it's real easy to get into a pattern of kind of relying on that. Like, let me cast something out there and see if somebody comes to me. You know, but really, the people that build successful businesses in this in Optavia always have an ongoing list of people that they want to share either the program or the opportunity with. You know, that if we're in an environment that we're just constantly being indirect or waiting for people to come to us, it's going to be hard. You're just going to constantly, you know, I'm seeing some people nodding like, yeah, that's me. And that it's easy to slip into that. I can certainly do it too. But Larry and I, we definitely reach out directly a lot, especially with the business, which will be talked about next week. But I think you'll be surprised at the responses. I mean, I was even listening to the way Larry just said that. The indirect, well, you might know somebody and I have something and I thought about you. Yeah, just it's very different the way somebody is going to hear that.
Yep, absolutely. So the last thing I want to cover tonight is just how do you control your call? So this, you know, when you look at all, this is, like I said, this is a great topic, okay, because it's so critical to, again, your business as far as business development. But controlling the call is probably, I think, paramount, okay, in order to get off of the call and get to the presentation call, okay? So what's going to happen is that client's going to say, well, tell me more about it. Well, I will when we connect, right? You know, well, what is it? How much does this program cost? Excellent question, you know, and move on, you know, to, again, the presentation call. One of the things that Dan was sharing was always ask a question. Okay, now this takes skill, and you can actually play around with it in your house if you want. You can play around with it with your spouse, with your children, with whomever. But always, if asked a question, okay, ask another question. All right. It keeps you in control of the conversation. It keeps you on the offense versus the defense as far as answering that question for the potential client. So again, get good at it. Practice that question. A lot of kids are great at it. They'll kind of joke around with you on it, and you'll say, "What do you think about this?" "No, what do you think about this?" That kind of stuff. So work with it, because it'll become a natural process in your thinking and in your process when you're approaching people. Call to action is important. Again, making sure that you're approaching and you're keeping that control, okay, by asking for the follow-up time frame. Okay, so making sure you're driving that there. Now, one of the things some people may think about it, because I've thought about it too, does that seem manipulative? I'm not answering the question. Does that seem manipulative? And I don't know if you caught this, but at the very end, J.C. Dornick mentioned something that I think is gold, okay? He said, what we're doing is we're helping that potential client focus, okay? He said, this technique is for the client to make sure they're prepared and focused for the presentation. At a time when you're approaching them and they start peppering you with 50 questions, they're not ready. They're not ready to be presented with the presentation and be able to make a decision, hopefully make a decision, on whether or not they want to move forward. He used the term monkey brain. I don't particularly care. It's his term, not mine. But he's basically saying that mind is just not focused in on what we want to talk to them about at that time. So again, if you feel uncomfortable about, asking a question when you get asked a question, okay, remember it's for their benefit. And I would even say it's for their benefit, okay? Say, I would love to get into all of that, but I think once we have our presentation, it'll become clear once we can focus in on this at one time. So I thought that was gold at the very end to emphasize that. So again, it's really important for us to remember all the time, right? It's never about us, right? And it's a great wrap up. It's never about us, but it's about the prospective client, okay, and what we can do for them. So I think that's a wrap as far as what took place. So as far as this week, okay, some of the practice things that Dan suggested, and we can do this all the time. It's not, just this week, but any time as far as growing our business. Again, practice your questioning, okay? Answer a question with a question, make 10 calls for a health assessment. Again, you're just asking people, would they like to have a health assessment, and then get off the phone. Okay. Yes, no. Okay. If they say yes, schedule it. If no, thank you. That was successful. All right. Make 10 calls. And if you're new, again, 3 to 5 health assessments. And again, working with your mentorship if you need that help to do that as well. So I think that's a wrap for me.
Yeah. And just what he just said about ask for the health assessment. I want to give a shout out to Debbie Pasco. We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and it transpired a little bit differently, but just something she did was so awesome. She had put a recipe out on Facebook and asked, I think it was a recipe, or asked if people wanted to join her newsletter, like we sometimes do, and said, message me if you're interested. And so instead of just sending them the recipe or putting them on the newsletter, I can't remember exactly what it was, Debbie took the time to say, hey, I'm just curious. Would you like to learn more about what I do as a health coach and the program that I offer? And Debbie, you lined up, was it 4 or 5 health assessments from that day? Yeah, she just nodded yes. So she lined up 4 or 5 health assessments just by asking the question, would you like to learn more about what I do and the program that I offer? And how easy would it have been just to kind of throw the recipe out there and duck? and hope they come back and ask questions about the program. So that was a great example of a direct approach.
Excellent job.
Yeah, thank you to Jen and to Cricket for sharing with us tonight, to Larry for leading. Thanks for your comments in the chat. We're heading into our last week of the month, guys. Everything is looking really good. Just stay focused with your clients, and lots of time to continue to approach and offer our program before the end of the month. So we'll see you over in the Facebook group, and be sure to join on to Dr. A and all the other calls later tonight.
Love you guys. Keep up the great work. Have a good
Thanks.
week. Bye.
Bye.